All right, I think we are all more or less here. So indeed, welcome on my behalf for the first annual Tourism Marketing and Management webinar. This is something that we've had, we have wanted to do for quite a while, and finally we had time and possibilities to organize this webinar. The goal of this webinar is actually to go through the research that we and our tourism business research group has been studying during this past year. My name is Juho Pesonen, and I'm the program manager and head of e-tourism research at the University of Eastern Finland Business School, and basically running this tourism marketing management international master's degree program. Then we have also our professor Raija Komppula in the webinar at our Joensuu campus. Welcome everybody once again to this webinar. Hopefully you'll find the content interesting and useful. If we look at the timetable for today, first we have a few minutes for this introduction. Then we have CEO of Visit Karelia, Jaakko Löppönen, and we will discuss the role of higher education in tourism development. Visit Karelia has been active in collaborating with our university and with our program, and we are happy, really happy and satisfied with this collaboration. Then we have 3 presentations from the research that our tourism business research group is conducting at the University of Eastern Finland. So we have Riina Iloranta presenting luxury tourism service provisions, then Esko Sorakunnas talking about dimensions and drivers of nature-based tourism experiences, and I will also briefly discuss management and leadership for digital transformation in tourism. Then we also have 3 presentations from our recent graduates, Tuulia, Pelkonen, Sanelma, Mäkelä, and Väänänen. Then at the end of this webinar, we will also present 6 award winners for the Visit Karelia Scholarship Awards. And finally, we will have discussion together about the tourism marketing management in the future. If you have any questions, please use the chat. I'll try to okay, thank you. As I said, if you have any questions, please use the chat. I'll try to follow it as closely as possible. And if you have any questions, any comments about the presentations, please type them in the chat, and I can ask the presenters later on about these questions and comments. Well, I'm gonna talk about a few words about our tourism marketing management program, or TMM, as we like to call it in our team. So this is an international master's degree program at the University of Eastern Finland Business School, Joensuu campus, and it's part of our tourism business research group that Raija is leading. We have an annual intake about 15 to 20 students, and the next application period for the study starting in September 2021 starts at the beginning of December. We started this program in 2017 when our first students started studying, and our goal is to make tourism better, so that tourism will continue to create well-being for our society, businesses, and tourists in a sustainable way. When we started this program, tourism was rapidly growing globally, and its impacts were getting increasingly large, both positive and negative impacts with that growth. And our goal was to manage and find ways to manage sustainable ways to manage this growth. And the graduate students from our program are tourism development experts who have in-depth knowledge about sustainability, information and communication technologies, and nature and well-being tourism. We feel like these 4 are the major trends that are prominent in the tourism business and also sources of well-being and sustainability. So that's why we are focusing on these topics in our program and also in our research. So our education is based very much on the research that our tourism business research group is conducting. And here is actually our team. We are around 10 strong, and the picture is missing some of us, but and especially we also have our adjunct professors and other collaborations from all over the world who are not present in this picture. Nonetheless, we all have our own strengths and working on various projects in tourism business development and teaching in this program. If you want to read more about the program, you can visit our website, uef.fi/tmm, or visit our blog. You can find our research group from the UEF Connect service. If you just go there and search for tourism business, you'll find it. We also have a Facebook page where we will be updating how we are making tourism better and also how others are making tourism better. So quite a lot of content relating to the theme of our program. And our students are also updating our Instagram account regarding our studies. So if you want to feel like how it is to study in our program, the Instagram is the best place to follow our students and their journey in with us. So that's it for the short introductions, and hopefully we are always looking for collaboration with businesses and other stakeholders. We like to include a lot of practical examples in our studies, so we are definitely open for many kinds of collaboration. So if you're interested in collaborating with us, please email me or contact me through social media. Next, we have Jaakko. Jaakko, are you online?
Yes, here am I.
Great, nice to have you here on our show, on our webinar. Once again, Jaakko has been quite active guest in our courses, and we've been collaborating quite a lot with Visit Karelia, but also with the local businesses, not just the destination management organization. How have you found this collaboration so far?
Very beneficial. So thanks for having me here. It's my privilege over here to join the first seminar, and hope this webinar or seminar or hybrid of things will evolve to next one next year at least. But in general, it's been my pleasure to work with the university and the team. And you want me to catch up directly to my issues?
Sure.
Or
Sure.
Okay. Can you all see me and hear me? I'm only seeing now Juho's presentation on the screen, so I hope okay. Okay, so let's take a bit of recap. So my name is Jaakko Löppönen. I work as the CEO of Visit Karelia. Visit Karelia is a destination management organization of the key destination, or you could shape it on the map on the North Karelia region of Finland, part of Eastern Finland. But the reason why I say it with this kind of flexibility is that we hope that we have a wider perspective of cooperating both sides in Finland and for example, with our Russian partners. So to me, it's a bit of more like a Karelia destination. And please you could all take in between or after this seminar, just take a look at Google Maps, what is the size of Karelia in terms of a destination on map. Yeah, but the issue over here, the role of higher education in tourism development. I want to start with a very human and individual point of view, which is my key, the most important centric point on my discussion or speech over here. And really, it's a very simple one. This cooperation with higher education delivers an knowledge and data, like knowledge, data, and human hub to the industry. So what I mean with this is actually that I started thinking of this theme really a bit more deeply, and what it actually gained as of an end result was me myself as an example. So on my background, I want to highlight this example that I was surprised that I've been working with travel and tourism now actually 20 years. You start early, so you have enough time. And with this 20 years, I've said in many occasions that what is the reason I'm working in travel and tourism. We can take a look, Professor Kompula over there. So I'm a former student of Raija and I was studying in University of Joensuu at that time. And Raija was teaching us, and she kind of hooked me into the scene of travel and tourism and different development projects, etc. before I was, for example, graduated from the university. And from that point of view, actually, I started to thinking that all these 20 years of time, it's a marathon run, but all the different positions I've been working as within the academic world, as a project world in different development projects, international or domestic, with the development companies, as a consultant for the companies directly, etc. Somehow the network and the knowledge of university has all the time influenced or has been present within those cases. And then I started to think that what is the thing that actually is present in this cooperation or collaboration. And as I said, it's two things. It's knowledge and people. So the development of the tourism travel needs people and knowledge. And actually university delivers it. I rather simplify the issue, but it's both of those things. And if you really think about it closely, we can evaluate as of a destination organization also that do we have an access to both of these? Do we have an access for the knowledge which we can use, for example, to do our strategy work or gain new ideas for marketing, etc. And another question, do we have access for the people? So we need new energy, new people, we need contacts, we need know-how from the past years and years and years, or we need a very, very fresh academic approach, some signals, what is happening on the digital world. So do we have an access on those issues? And my answer was rather simple. I'm glad that actually we as a Visit Karelia, we have access to both of these. We know each other, we work for years and years in different roles together, in different projects and different schemes and different consortiums and so on. But also we have the access to the knowledge. We are the people, we are the networks, we are the services, and if we can add value to that people and knowledge network and to that hub, bringing in and out all this knowledge, I'm glad to be part of it. So I took first to summarize. So to me, the role of higher education is to be the knowledge and people hub for the trade. And as we know, this program which Juho is leading, it's one of a kind over here in nationwide for example, even in Nordic scheme, or I don't know how it positions in globally, but at least in this perspective. And if you think that we have this kind of very unique possibility to be part of this knowledge and people hub, so why wouldn't we cooperate? Why wouldn't we do things together? So to say with not another cliche, but a stereotype, you could put it in very few words, which describes both us as a person and the businesses. And it goes like this: I can't, but we can. So, for example, last year, Visit Karelia brought together the new growth strategy for the following 10 years, 2020 to 2030 over here. And it's very simple to see that the same sentence will lead us to try to do it your by self, like as if as a destination organization, we are so self-empowered that we could know and do and work all the issues. No, will not happen. So Visit Karelia is the same thing. I can't, but together we can. But I want to highlight 3 issues, especially on this framework I provided. And hear me out more in a way that I'm not only saying the role, but also on my perspective, what is my learnings or ideas this far for the reason, not only the role of higher education, but also kind of my perspective, what is the reason behind it. Number 1, higher education works for the trade. And to me, the trade is like I learned years and years ago when I was working with a multi-European project. It should be more of a win-win-win situation. So we have the academic side, searching things, thinking things, making hypotheses or scenarios or whatever, but working on things that are not kind of present at the moment, for example. Then we have the actual trade, working with everything present right now, struggling with all the problems and enjoying all the fruits of the success, for example, like this summer over here with the domestic demand. And then we have all the supportive structures like projects and NGOs, like non-governmental sector players and then the governmental sectors and so on. And with the combination of these commercial, public, private 3 wins, it all should work for the trade. And one of my finding, not only over here in our region, but also in Finland and also in Europe, is that the higher education is the key influencer to make this kind of combination of win-win-win happen. So the kind of where do the topics to work with come out? It comes from the higher education. On the other hand, we know that the importance of the so-called, I put it because you was at higher education. If you think that what is the lower education, it has all the importance to make things happen today. But if we divide these in different scenarios, the role of a higher education is to actually build out the topics we work with. And on our scale, we benefit as of a whole trade from it. And it's simple to clarify to all of you. Finland is a rather small country. And within Finland, the trade of travel and tourism is rather small. I say it with a smile, and I use like a black and white, a bit of terms in my usually speaking, but in my world, it's like Raija knows everyone from the trade. because Raija has been working so long with the trade. But it's also due to the fact that Finland is a very small country, so not in terms of kilometers actually, but in terms of the population. And what results out of this is also that whether you work for Helsinki or North Karelia or Lapland, we actually work quite a lot with the same networks, and all the people know each other, more closely or not so closely. But if we go, for example, to overseas sales, we are on the same desks. There are not so many operators actively selling out Finland as a product. So in terms of that, all things done for the trade, which, for example, Juho's education structure is building up in this program, all done within there will benefit us. Will benefit us as a trade, will benefit us to have new, energetic, competent people to work for the whole trade. And how I see it as a person is that when someone from your team, from this program, gets the master thesis done and gets to work, for example, on the other side of Finland, we are still working together for the travel and tourism of this small Finland together. And actually, when this competence brings more visitors to Kokkola, we will benefit also from it. So all the visitors coming to the whole Finland is kind of the needed approach to make growth and the livelihood, positive livelihood effect on different regions happen. So I hope you get the idea that, to my point of view, number one is that the higher education works for the trade in total. Of course, within that work, the higher education provides the topics and the angles to work with that will reform and transform the trade also in terms of quality, to make digital leaps and so on. We need new workforce for the trade. We need new managers and people doing things with a fresh approach to the problems. And this is now a challenge at the moment, since we can show that due to the COVID issue, the whole industry is recharging and restarting itself. And no one knows what is going to happen. We don't know who is flying and what is happening and who are the selling structures and so on. So actually the challenge is right now that you need to have a relatively wide perspective of issues in your toolbox to understand the change and what should I do to react on it. And this is something I'm very glad that this University of Eastern Finland has really pushed on to educate the wide perspective of things and set of tools to work with these kind of challenging times also. Okay, so number one, reason and role for the trade, bigger picture. Number two, for the local. By this I mean that actually, okay, Joensuu is a university town, so is Kuopio also. Together we are a big university, region, destination. We have a wide variety of different nationalities on board over here. And all of that in itself brings added value to what we work on. Because there are a lot of people from different backgrounds and networks and cultures which can provide us business intelligence, cultural knowledge, etc. on the actual issues we work with. But one of the things for the local is that to make the sustainable and responsible development happen, as in also the pursuits of Juho, sustainable and responsible issues are on the desk everywhere. But what it also means that the local society and all parts of it should be more positive towards tourism than negative. And if we are for example, just Joensuu, a town of university with quite a lot of students present in here. And those students are part of this local society, influencing a lot of things. That in itself is again a reason for us to work with the university and the whole higher education scheme. But we also trust that this collaboration with higher education and the role of this knowledge and human hub will result as a better coverage and footage impact on the local society. And this is, I would say at this point, this is also a future challenge for us. Maybe we should work more, investigate, do more research on this issue, that how to really in the future, if you think of the times we are living at now, how to really make it happen, that the locals think that the tourism is a good thing. I was just a couple of weeks ago after a long while, I was visiting Helsinki in a meeting, and within that meeting in Helsinki, they said that don't go out on the streets and don't even say a loud term matkailu, travel, because there are so much negative attitudes and opinions now on this trade. So for the reason of security and other things ongoing on, this is really, again, a challenge. And I think the higher education will give us a lot of content on that. Then the third point. So number one was for the trade. Number two was for the local. And number three is my selfish point for the DMO. To build the stewardship for this destination, which we need to act in our management and marketing role over here. We are coordinators of the strategy, as I mentioned, for the next 10 years, for example. To make this happen in a way that we are not the ones producing the products for the visitors, but we need to influence on so many things that this kind of stewardship really needs sharp topics, I would say. This kind of not a flatter variety of issues to somehow work with. We need a sharp angle topic or like a point to work with the trade. And the cooperation with the higher education, and especially with this program over University of Eastern Finland, builds us the knowledge and the ideas also to make our work more clarified, more sharpened. And with that, we can communicate more clearly. We can build up more understandable implementation of our strategy for the trade and for the affiliates and so on. And to me, this is the stewardship we need to work with. And I come back to my beginning. I can't, but we can. And with the combination of all the knowledge and people present in this program of Juho leading, we have so much more resources to build this stewardship. Of course, what we need to do on this issue, Juho asked what is my opinion now on the theme. I could say that we've just started. Hardly done a lot of things I could say. I'm trying to find one quickly if I find that let me put it in this way. We are not yet kind of working together. We are just familiarizing ourselves to the topic of collaboration together and how to build up this in the 3 to 5 years period to a beneficial work together scheme, so that we really know that each year we tackle new topics, but also work with the with the ones we keep on working, how to make this like an almost daily operative model. It's a very simple but challenging task for us. So at that point, we are very glad to work with, and I see this clear role of higher education for the trade, for the local, for the DMO, and to be the knowledge and people hub over there. The challenge is for the future to make it very pragmatic, because what we would like to have is almost like, hey, Juho, with all the students, you have great idea or signal from the world. We want to hear it. So how to make this happen? Maybe we can develop or ideate new digital tools or something to really make this more pragmatic, this work together. But with these words, I said to the end that I'm waiting for the rest of this webinar, because what I understood according to the program also, we are all going to hear a couple of those signals and points which your team has, which this team has worked with and done an academic research on it and so on. So with this, I think I took almost my time now. I would like to have, if there are questions or something at this point, if it's okay for you, we could have some conversation on the issue, and hopefully you guys gained some ideas on my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaakko. It's always educational for me, and I think for quite many of people joining and listening this webinar to hear your thoughts. And we have quite a lot of our students, new students who just started their studies 2 days ago to join this webinar, and probably finding it really interesting to hear the DMO aspect and the DMO perspective on our studies, that why we are doing this and why there's people joining us and spending 2 years of their lives in investing quite heavily on learning these things that we are discussing about and seeing the relevance of what we are doing. I would like to hear what Raya especially thinks about these 3 things that Jaakko mentions. You've been in the higher education for quite a while now, and does this formulate some kind of a possible future path for collaboration?
Yes, for sure. Thank you very much, Jaakko. I also first would like to comment a little bit the notion of networks that that you said. You mentioned that Raya knows everybody well. I did know everybody 10 years ago, but no more. So it's very interesting that as people know each other, it's not only everybody in Finland that we know and should know, but it should be also the international networks. So in terms of career development, it's important to know those, particularly those people who are working in the industry in those positions that might have an impact on your future employment, but also in terms of knowledge sharing. And I must say that I know my generation people, but unfortunately I somehow dropped from the networks as soon as Juho came, because Juho's networks are the future networks and the current networks, and this is also a generational thing, meaning that too often I tend to say that things tended to be better 20 years ago, and I'm very happy to see that young people like Jaakko, you are still young compared to me, and Juho and the new generations come on board. Actually, I don't have much to add to what Jaakko said, because now we really need to look to the future. Of course, we must also learn from the past. And an interesting thing is that, which I'm not too proud of to say, but an interesting thing is that it's really peculiar that new generations tend to make the same mistakes and than the old generations. Like I say, I had a speech at a industry seminar in, was it November last year, and it was about collaboration and networking and you know, dyadic and multi networks, multi-actor networks. And it was really interesting that I admitted in the very beginning of my speech that now I'm going to use 20 years old slides. So those which were based on my 20 years old PhD study about collaboration. And I must say that everything still is valid. And this is a good news anyway, so that my research results were very valid, but it's also bad news if not too much has developed in terms of collaboration and between entrepreneurs and collaboration between destinations and collaboration between all other parties. Well, I must say that I'm very proud of my previous student Jaakko, so I can agree with you totally. This is my comment.
Okay, thank you very much, Raya. I want to highlight on this issue, as Raya also pointed out, the role of the higher education. I presented in the three angles: for the trade, the role for the trade, for the local, and for the DMO, and all of these influence on long-term perspective. So one of the key roles to me in this is also that I know universities also its own issues with the funding and different things, but to see it from a bit longer perspective, as Raya mentioned, there are key persons that integrate into the trade networks, both domestic and international, and can work for the trade and for the local and the DMO on that point of view. And then comes all the courses like Juho's master degree program participants and this research group with different people, bringing like a pulse, you know, like a heartbeat to the system. And we need both of these. And this is something to me that, on my opinion, within our ecosystem we are working in, there's no other part of the ecosystem doing the same. So that's for us, of course, in here in North Karelia and here Jonse, we are really very proud of your master degree program and this research group work ongoing, because you are in our hometown, so very close by. But still, we understand that the influence is long term, and we need to also work with both of these like time perspectives with the issues. And this is what I've heard also. I want to highlight to all the audience and your students out there that please take a look, take an investigation, challenge Juho, how can we do it? But you could take a look, like a benchmarking. How does this kind of collaborative work with the higher education and destinations work elsewhere in the world?
Mm-hmm.
It's not so obvious or like that everyone has this kind of collaboration models. Really, it's not. On my network, I still see that we are privileged, of course, to this strategic decisions from the behalf of University of Eastern Finland, but also that we've found our way into the networks on different decades, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Many of my colleagues have said that this is one thing that they don't have. So they can join us over here in webinars, but they evaluate the situation that they don't have this kind of more daily approaching model to this cooperation.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to say that we should be proud of it also. So
and we are really collaboration. That's our keyword.
Yes.
Great, and that's a good word to end Jaakko's presentation so far. Thank you so much. It's really educational, and I think that what is important and why our collaboration is developing so well is that we are sharing the similar goals. So the things that you were speaking for the DMO, for the locals, and for the trade is also what is interesting for our students and what motivates them, and that is why we can learn a lot from you, but also the aspect that higher education should be about taking the next step and being the ones that also educate the industry. So our students are always thrilled. Well, we are all thrilled to hear the latest from the industry, but we should be also in the industry, in the academia, able to take the next step and go one step further and thinking courageously about the future. And that's what research is for, and that's probably where we should be investing more of our resources. Great, thank you. And to talk about research, I'm really happy that we have some of our PhD students here, Riina Iloranta and Esko Sorakunnas, who are presenting their research just published in really nice academic journals. So we'll have Riina's presentation next. Let me just get it online.
While Juho is searching it, I want to say good morning to you all. Nice to see that there are so many people joining this webinar. So here, my name is Riina Iloranta, and I'm studying luxury tourism in Finland. And this was the article which was published in Tourism Management Perspectives journal. It's about how Finnish service providers are creating prerequisites for service provision in Finland. So you can change the slide. So the consumption of luxury has changed. It used to be consumption about products, brands like Hermes, Prada, and stuff like that, nice sports cars. But nowadays, it's more about experiences. Why it is so? It's because people value much more experiences than products. So luxury experiences are superior for products. Furthermore, luxury has changed so that it's not anymore gold and glitter. It's not anymore about marble and gold taps only. It's as well something with authentic experiences. So we have changed from status and product-based luxury to a new type of luxury, which is experiential. This old luxury is called traditional luxury. It still exists, but beside that is new luxury, which is about experiences and enrichment. Furthermore, luxury is more inconspicuous, so people don't want to show anymore that they use luxury consumption as it used to be. So therefore, Finland offers a nice like a place to do study for this kind of research. So as the luxury has changed more to experiences as they are more valuable, there's a good opportunity to travel and tourism industry. Luxury market is very valuable from managerial perspectives, as those tourists spend 8 times more money than regular tourists. And if you think about tourism, you'd usually want to experience something new. And these people who have the wealth and who have the money, they have been already in Paris, they have been and seen the Monaco, they have seen those destinations. And Finland is something that they haven't seen yet. And therefore, contemporary luxury travelers, they search real, unique, authentic experiences in those destinations that they haven't visited yet. And they want to learn from those experiences. They want to get something that they can change as a cultural capital, so that then they can tell about their traveling and tourism experiences. So the experience adds novelty in their life. So it's these 5-star hotels are still there, but it's recognized that it's not anymore necessary to be in a 5-star accommodation. Rather, different kind of activities which are produced or in a luxurious way are more tempting, as it gives like a meaningful experiences to people. It gives enrichment, they can develop themselves, it gives a possibility for self-actualization. Therefore, Finland is a very good context to bring these kind of experiences to people. So the aim of my study was to define what is Finnish luxury tourism and understand what are the prerequisites for the luxury service experience. All the research is usually done in those destinations that offer those traditional luxury tourism products, those resorts or 5-star hotels. And Finland has very few these kind of hotels, but we have other things which can bring value for the consumer. And this is the framework I developed in my study. If we look from the outer circle and we go inner, you will see the different perspectives, how it's developed, the whole understanding what is Finnish luxury. So service providers, usually they have some kind of knowledge, they have experienced luxury somewhere in those traditional destinations. Where are the 5-star hotels and how does it feel like? Then they add the Finnish context, because Finnish context is something that brings value for the consumer. And then they analyze what is the customer expectation as well. Now, if you move to the inner circle, there's how the service provision actually go. So the material base will bring the expectation of a luxury. That means the material things for example, in accommodation has to be good quality. For example, Finnish design. So it represents something Scandinavian or Northern European style. But those are not, those just provide a basis. The real value comes from interaction with customers, how the service personnel is interacting with customers. And as well, the functional clues of the service, how service is provided. It has to be easy, comfortable, nice, give the feeling for the customer that it's safe and they are being care of. Furthermore, there are various details. Luxury is a detail business. So there have to be nuances with storytelling, aesthetics, quality, sustainability is very important nowadays, and all different kind of multisensorial aspects. So that luxury experience is holistic experience, is authentic and unique for the customer. And even though it might seem simple, if the perspective is traditional one, it is meaningful for the consumer. So in Finnish context, we provide unconventional luxury, which seems kind of simple from the perspective of traditional luxury. However, it brings value for the consumer as customer feels special. Luxury experience is co-created, and service provider seems to offer prerequisites for hedonic and eudaimonic well-being experiences. They were also recognizing different levels of luxury. So there's the ordinary luxury, which is like a high quality service, and it's tailor-made, but it's more like a ready-made packages combined together. And then there was the ultimate luxury, which was private experience. So the service provider was only there for this certain customer. And it affected the service structure. The whole relationship with customer was much more like friendship-like. And the experience was more holistic, as service provider could create the experience whole time with the customer. So there was much more hospitality in it. And now if you go with the managerial suggestions, the Finnish luxury experience in Finnish context, it's about hedonic well-being experiences with nature, enjoying pure Finnish food, enjoying our forest, our lakes, different kind of activities there. It might be even eudaimonic well-being experience, meaning that it will change you somehow. It will give you some tools for self-realization and for your personal growth as a human. So in Finnish context, service providers aim to feel customer to make feel special somehow, so that it will add their well-being. What it requires from service provider, you have to know the context, how Finland is, what is our society, what kind of values there's behind our society, the nature, what we have here. You have to know the context which you're operating in. Then you have to know what is luxury, how does it feel to be in luxurious context. And then you have to know your customer, what kind of things they value, what are the expectations of the customer. So we have to rely those strengths that come from our culture and our context, otherwise it's not authentic experience and it won't provide meaningfulness. And therefore the traditional version of luxury does not suit in Finnish culture. We are quite like a nature-related nation, and we are kind of simplistic. In service provision, you have to provide the base with luxurious feeling for material features, that is furnitures, cutleries, and so on, those material features that support the experience. There has to be noted different kind of details, aesthetics, quality, in those material features. However, the personal encounters and human interaction are much more valuable, and the functional cues how service is delivered. So the service is not anymore like a servant service provider as a servant, rather it's more as an experience, more equal like relationship. So the service is easy and flexible for the customer. And you have to remember that luxury is a detail business. So you have to find always different kind of stories from, for example, from those material elements that you can bring value for the customer by telling those stories about Finnish culture. Therefore, and you have to find and think about how your customer, what are the needs of them, so that you will exceed those expectations that they have. Sometimes you have to be there as a translating what is the Finnish luxury versus the traditional luxury, because they might have been used to be traditional version of luxury, and now we are in a new situation with unconventional luxury. And this ultimate luxury, it's the private experience. It's practicable for smaller privately owned companies, because bigger companies have a bigger service structure there behind, so they can't control the service customer experience in the level that small companies can. So here the service is more personal and every product is composed from the beginning for the certain customer. Thank you. Any questions?
Fantastic. Thank you, Riina. That was really interesting to think about what luxury means in the context of Finnish tourism. If you have any questions, please, you can use the chat to type them. I at least would like to hear, you've been looking at this topic for quite some time. What kind of examples you find from Finland that would be good representatives of this Finnish luxury experience?
One of the stories that those service providers told was about a Brazilian couple who traveled to Finland as they wanted to know why we are the happiest nation. They couldn't understand how we can be the happiest nation as we do our own laundry and we don't have a servants. How can you be the happiest nation? And then when the service provider tied this whole thing about our society and how our educational system functions and so on, they understood what is there behind to be the happiest nation. So these kind of stories are important for those kind of customers. They are coming here for learning.
Great. This would be an excellent course topic, probably for many Finnish businesses, that how to develop their products and services to a luxury level, and luxury also is more expensive, right? Even in the case of Finnish luxury, so it has the potential of providing more revenues than non-luxury products. That still holds true, right?
That's true, yeah. So even though you compare that this new luxury, this unconventional luxury is like cheaper than traditional luxury, it's still more valuable if you think about turn of the revenue.
Yeah, and it has to be, because you have to pay a lot more attention to details, and all of that takes a lot of resources, your time and money, and investing in materials and making sure that everything works in a very and I like this of personal experience. So as long as you have big target markets, you cannot be in the luxury segment, but you have to be really focused on serving people, not just markets.
That's right, yeah.
Well, excellent. If no other questions, then thank you, Riina. Your paper can be read and found in the Tourism Management Perspectives journal, right?
That's right.
All right, great. And if someone has any questions later on, watching the recording or anything, you can, of course, email Riina about this topic.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Esko Sorakunnas on dimensions and drivers of nature-based tourism experiences. Esko, are you online?
Well, am I? Tell me.
You look online.
Okay.
Great.
Dear Juho, Raija, ladies and gentlemen, my field of research are the experiences and consumer value perceptions of nature-based tourism. Put simply, I'm interested in why people engage in nature-based tourism and what they get from it. I'm a PhD student at the University of Eastern Finland in the Research Group for Tourism Marketing and Management. And today I'll give you an overview of my recently published study on nature-based tourism experiences. So two things. What are these experiences made of, and which factors underlie them and act as their drivers? To begin with, just a few general basics of experiences. Experiences are based on interaction. You as a person being exposed to the surrounding environment and selectively reacting to sounds, smells, views, etc. This is the basic mechanism that creates experiences in our minds. And as a consequence, our experiences are always unique. They are personal, they are influenced by our own values, mood, motivation, previous experiences, and other personal factors. So if, let's say, we have two people going through the same event, they get the same stimuli from their environment, but still they have a different experience because they are different people. Experiences are also situational. They depend on the context. If you as a person go through the same or similar event on a different occasion, your experience will not be identical to the one you had 2 weeks ago. Consuming a product, participating in an event, you will notice that your experiences fluctuate all the time. They are dynamic. There are positive and negative phases, highs and lows, extraordinary moments, peak experiences, and so on. So experiences are never constant, but they fluctuate and change all the time. And then finally, experiences are multidimensional, which refers to the fact that they are composed of different elements. Just think about a simple event like having a cup of coffee. There are numerous experiential elements to the cup of coffee. There's the degree of roast, temperature, type of milk, taste, caffeine content, atmosphere, ethical considerations, and so on. And now, given that our experiences are personal, situational, very dynamic, and multidimensional, made of different components, experiences are something that cannot be manufactured in a company, wrapped up in a nice package, delivered to a store, and put on the shelf for somebody to buy. But rather, experiences require personal involvement. You have to be there. You create the experience inside your mind. And therefore, whenever I see an advertisement by a company promising to deliver me a great experience, or the greatest experience ever, it makes me sort of think, how realistic is that? We'll come back to this sentence later on in my presentation. But next, let's have a look at some of the basics of my research. In order to understand the dimensions and drivers of nature-based tourism experiences, I made a case study in a Finnish national park up in Lapland. Pallas-Yllästunturi National Park is the most popular park in Finland. And I studied the independent visitors to that park. That is, people that visited the park on their own, not facilitated by a company. They didn't buy a service product from a company. They went to the park on their own. And I wanted to know what they experienced while in nature. In order to find that out, I studied the guest books in the wilderness huts, because they provided an authentic and rich window into visitor experiences. People that had been there had written down the highlights of their day in those guest books. I took a whole bunch of the books, covering half a century from 1970 to almost present day, and content analyzed what the people had experienced. And these are now the main components of their experiences. If you, Juho, switch to the next slide. Bearing in mind that experiences are multidimensional, here you see the dimensions of those nature-based tourists that I studied. Naturally, given the name nature-based tourism, nature was the major driver and element in their experiences. Nature meaning the beauty of nature, wildlife, silence and peace, admiring sunsets, starlit skies, northern lights, and so on, mainly absorbing external stimuli and enjoying it. The second largest share were physical accomplishments. That is, people put them in, put themselves in situations with physical challenges. They climbed on a high fell or made a long day distance, or they encountered harsh environmental conditions, cold, snowstorm, wind, so on. Or they had challenging moments. They got lost for a while, they had to cross a freezing river and so on. So these were experiences where the environment and the person both were involved, and mainly these would be characterized as hedonic experiences. Then the third largest dimension were personal experiences. They were very much created by the person, him or herself, although the environment also had something to do with it. Personal issues included sleeping very well, having an excellent dinner, and more abstract issues like happiness, self-renewal, freedom, escape kind of feelings. Then, perhaps rather surprisingly, also the infrastructure created experiences, and this refers to the wilderness huts in the region, because when the conditions were tough, it was nice to get indoors, heat up the hut, dry your clothes, and so on. And finally, the fifth element was social interaction that was twofold. People either enjoyed the company of their friends and family members, that is the group they were doing the hike together with, or then they interacted with strangers that were also involved in the same activity. They felt inclusion, a sort of a community feeling with other hikers in the area. Next, we'll have a look at the evolution of these elements. Since my study covered about 50 years of nature-based tourism experiences, it was interesting to compare the decades with each other. And as you can see, this is a qualitative study, so this is sort of the idea behind the frequency of the different elements. Nature has always been the element number one, followed by physical challenges and infrastructure. The personal sphere is the third one. And as we can see, the order of the elements hasn't changed very much in 50 years, although our society has undergone major changes. Just think about our material wealth, amount of free time, ability to travel, breakthrough of technology in all fields of life. But although our lives seem to have changed a lot, people still experience very similar things in this national park as they did 50 years ago. And based on this, I could say that the structure of the experiences has changed very little. Next one, please. If you look at the picture on the left-hand side, on the base of the triangle, you see the word consumer-driven experiences and company-driven experiences. And this is the way marketing theory traditionally has seen experiences, either being driven by consumers or companies, or then by both of them. If you think of, for instance, inviting friends over to your house on a Friday evening, you bake them pizza from flour, tomato sauce, cheese, and so on, and you have a nice evening with your friends. It's a very consumer-driven experience with little company involvement. Whereas if you would go out with your friends to the pizzeria, enjoy your pizzas there, it would very much be a company-driven experience, wouldn't it? The company would control the setting, decoration, staff clothing, music, menu, and so on. And traditionally, we've considered experiences to be driven either by consumers or companies, and most often a combination of company and consumer involvement. Whereas based on my research, I would add a third driver of experiences, and that would be the context. As you saw in the previous material, very much of the experiences were created by the context, and that is the theoretical background of experiences. We react to stimuli from the context. And therefore, I think we should acknowledge the relevance of the context as an equal driver experiences compared to consumers and companies. Looking at the picture on the right-hand side, I placed the experiential dimensions to my model. And as you can see, the nature experiences are very much context-driven. It rains or it doesn't rain, there's nothing you can do about it. Same with northern lights, they appear or they don't appear. So nature experiences are very context-driven. But then when it comes to physical challenges and that kind of thing, that includes also a little bit of consumer involvement. It's your decision to take the climb. It's your decision to continue for another 5 kilometers or so. Social interaction requires even more consumer involvement. And finally, personal sphere is very consumer driven. If we look at these independent visitors to this national park, there were very little company-driven experience because companies as such were absent. But the infrastructure provided by park management was a co-driven experience between consumers and the company. So this is the model I built based on my findings. But let's have a look at the practical implications of my study. For nature-based tourism companies, the main point I would like to make is that provide opportunities, not experiences. This refers back to the notion I made in the beginning. It's difficult to deliver experiences, but it's easier to deliver opportunities for experiences. So although the service components have to be in place, facilities have to be tidy and so on, focus on the outcomes of your clients. That's the same message Riina had just a while ago. Focus on the outcome, what the people get from it, and that's an experience. Since we're dealing with nature, plan carefully. Try to anticipate different kinds of changes that are beyond your control. If you organize a river rafting tour on the Runa River, it may rain. You need to have a plan B or plan C to anticipate that change. When providing a nature-based tourism service, be multidimensional. If you focus only on one issue, be it, for instance, that we will see a bear. If that doesn't happen, it will be a disappointment to the clients. Rather, try to have as many different elements as possible, because you never know which one of them is going to be realized and which one is not. And finally, do not overpromise. If you overpromise, your clients will come with high expectations, perhaps unrealistic expectations. If they're not fulfilled, what's the outcome? Perhaps a disappointment and lower satisfaction. As an individual, my findings relate to being humble and adapting to Mother Nature's will, as I expressed it. Since you cannot control the context, just immerse yourself into it and see what it offers you. Here again, be multidimensional. Don't just go for one thing, but accept the possibility of experiencing different kinds of things. If you have a large set of opportunities, some of them will be realized. Anticipate on a general level and accept your limited predictability and influence on the outcome. For park management, focus on the outcome, not only the facilities and attributes. Focus on what the people get from visiting it. Acknowledge the existence of different visitor segments. A family with small children has quite different experiences than those that spend weeks after weeks on their own in the wilderness. And finally, retain the opportunities for different kinds of experiences. Some are looking for action, some are looking for silence. Some want to be alone, some want to meet different people. So you should bear in mind the different kinds of experiences people are looking at, are searching, and give them different opportunities for different experiences. Finally, more on the topic. Yes, just put the next slide, please. If you're interested in my research, there's a recent podcast in Finnish, 15 minutes of discussion on these topics. And there's an article on the university's information service as well. But this was a very practical presentation, a down-to-earth thing with very little theory and methodology and so on. I focused on the practical issues. But those of you who are interested in further information are welcome to have a look at the study which was published in the Journal of Outdoor Recreation and Tourism recently. There you will find more of the theoretical background and discussion of how the triangle model should be adaptable also to other contexts. And finally, you're of course welcome to contact me if you're interested in the issue and have a further discussion. Yes, the final slide, please. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Should there be any comments, I'd be glad to answer them now or later. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Esko. It's always thrilling to hear you speak, and you're so enthusiastic about this research, as you should be. It's rather interesting to build the understanding of what actually is the Finnish nature tourism experience. Nature tourism is well, virtually every experience in Finland can be categorized as nature tourism experience. It's not even in the Allas Seapool can you experience nature in Finland. I was personally wondering that have you compared your results with other studies from abroad and found out that what makes this Finnish nature tourism experience unique? What's the differentiation aspect of nature tourism in Finland? Because we have nature tourism all over the world, but what would you think is the unique thing about Finnish nature tourism?
I made the comparison in my paper. There's a list of studies made on different continents, and mainly it's the same things that people experienced, but probably the thing that is peculiar to the Finnish nature-based tourism is the fact you already mentioned, that practically we all live our everyday lives very close to nature. And when it then comes to especially engaging in nature-based tourism, in this case traveling to northern Finland to visit a large national park, what we are after is then perhaps more intensive experiences than we have in our everyday lives. And perhaps we as nature-based tourists are more demanding than the urbanized Central Europeans, for instance. They may be satisfied with much less than we, since we have nature present in our everyday lives already.
This is an excellent thing to note for Finnish nature tourism businesses, and it virtually means that the experience design has to be completely different for a Finnish domestic tourism compared to foreign tourists coming from someplace else, because the relationship with nature is so different for Finns compared to virtually any other country in the world. And this relationship and past history and cultural context all affect how the experience turns out.
Yes, exactly. That is exactly the point. And turned the other way around, you could jokingly say that perhaps the foreign visitors might be satisfied with quite simple experiences. They may still be great peak experiences for them, although we might consider this an everyday thing.
Yeah, that's good. And Jaakko has raised his hands, which is also a good way to ask a question. So Jaakko, please.
Okay, thank you for both of these great presentations on Riina and Esko. Very interesting. To me, it all accumulates to one, because this nature is also the luxury of our product. on both of these, just a short comment on the issue that I've had a lot of continuing discussions about two things. First of all, this kind of luxury or what is the added value to the visitor compared to other destinations or other experiences. And this added value question is not so, it's a more complex, I see, than like easier said than done, you could say. Because where comes the added value? My thought, especially on Esko's presentation, is also the concept that when you look on the eyes of the visitor, the question is, do I pay for something that is produced for me? Or do I pay for something that I'm allowed, guided, able to be part of? And this is something we work not every day, but almost every day with the overseas sales. Take, for example, experience is called winter fishing on Pelkonen. Okay, what is for the different markets and segments and so on, the variety of this action, this activity. On the other hand, majority of our customers, even the domestic ones, actually want to only pay for that they are allowed or able to transport it to the lake, that they can see how the winter fishing is done. They don't want to touch the fishes or the equipment or so on. And then on the other half, there's another customer segment that say that I really want to pay for something that the winter fishing I'm experiencing is exclusively produced for me. And from this on, what we work also is this kind of scenario that, okay, you have like a do-it-yourself experiences, half-guided, full-guided experiences, and a mix of everything. But just to comment on the issue to summarize is that also it might be a good idea sometimes to simplify that what is the for what is the customer actually paying for. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this was a good point, and the logic I had in my study was that I studied individual visitors, independent people that didn't buy any service. They just went there, immersed themselves in the context and experienced something. And my idea was that by analyzing their experience elements, we could use this data also for the produced experiences. If we see that the things people mostly value are this kind of things, perhaps these are the elements we should also offer in ready-made packaged experiences, so to say.
Exactly.
Great. Thank you, Jaakko, for the question and comment. All right. It seems that I am next. And I'm using this opportunity to discuss a little bit about management and leadership for digital transformation in tourism, which has been quite a big topic for several years now, but still it's a topic that is really difficult for many to grasp, that what this digital transformation really is all about, and what makes it, what are the special things that we in the tourism industry and in the tourism field have to think about when we are talking about digital transformation in our field. And I would like you to familiarize yourself with Handbook of E-Tourism. If you just go to Google and type in Handbook of E-Tourism, you will find it. You will find a Springer link to this fantastic online book. It's a huge project that is run by the members of International Federation for Information technology in travel and tourism, and editors are Zheng Jiang, Matthias Fuchs, Ulrike Kretzel, and Wolfram Höpken, which are virtually collecting all the knowledge of e-tourism in one book. And this is a very large project that involves, I think, hundreds, more than 100 authors, 100 experts from various fields of e-tourism, each one focusing on different parts of information and communication technologies in tourism. And all of the chapters are free to download. It's an open access book. It's a big project that virtually collects all the knowledge together in one place. So it's kind of like a collection of everything that has happened within the e-tourism field so far. And there's about 30 chapters online at this moment, but there's dozens and dozens more coming up, and they are being updated there all the time. So if you are looking for content regarding e-tourism, this is and will definitely be the place to start. And how I've contributed to this book is examining the digital transformation, and especially the role of management and leadership in this process. And my chapter should be online quite soon, not too many weeks left. It's in production right now, but you'll get some kind of preliminary understanding of the topic and what's in the chapter through this presentation. We are experiencing change. The consultants like to say that only constant thing is change, and I think that's a bit of a cliche, but still working quite well in this topic, because there's constantly new stuff coming up from everywhere we look at, and all of that is creating change in the surrounding environment and also within our business and tourism context. And in this paper, digital transformation is defined as a creative process that is activated by knowledge management and knowledge transfer, which in turn aim at creating new business models and possibilities. And these terms are actually collecting together the main idea of what this digital transformation in tourism is all about. And I was really happy to listen to Jaakko's presentation this morning, because the things that he was saying are also the things that I've come up by myself and are witnessed and identified by many scientists and researchers before. So in this paper, I've collected a huge number of studies and put them together to form this kind of understanding that where we are at in digital transformation in tourism. And please bear with me a little bit when I explain this model. This model is actually not published in the book, but it's still relevant for this presentation. It models virtually the role of management and leadership in understanding innovations, because digital transformation in tourism is actually an innovation process. It requires creativity from businesses. And if we start from the left side, we have a lot of changes happening in the society. We have the STEEP model that is about the social, technological, environmental, economical, and political changes and developments happening in the society that are affecting virtually every organization. So this box depicts any organization, in this case, tourism organizations. And why I've decided to call this a tourism organization black box is that we actually have surprisingly little information of what happens inside this box. It's about how we manage and lead our businesses and organizations, and what are the leadership characteristics and ways and various approaches that can be used in managing tourism organizations. And there's still surprisingly little knowledge. What we have so far is especially the big emphasis on knowledge management. So if we want to adapt and utilize change that is happening in the society, we need to be able to react to it, and how that happens is through learning. And organizations nowadays have to build these knowledge management and change management practices and strategies within themselves to understand how we learn, because learning then enables creativity, and creativity very rarely happens alone by sitting in dark room or so on, but it typically comes from social connections, networks, as Jaakko and Raija have been studying and learning quite a lot. And this is also what quite a lot of literature confirms. And it's about, if we take a management paradigm, how do we do well in this change that is happening is by looking at our organization and how we enable the people in the organization to be creative, and for that we need these social connections. As the result of social creativity, we have innovations, and typically the innovations are categorized in two different kind of innovations. We have social, scientific and technological innovations, which are typically big new technologies developed in research and development departments in big companies and universities, for example. But then we also have doing, using, and interacting innovations, these everyday innovations that are especially happening in small tourism businesses. And you need both. You need both in digital transformation in tourism, because the goal is to reach new business models, the business models that enable the organization to create and co-create customer value in ways that are difficult to imitate by competitors. And the changes happening in the marketplace and in the society do not come from nothing, but they come from organizations, and they come from these innovations that organizations are doing. All of these are impacting and generating impacts of organizations on the society. So it's kind of a loop that continues to turn around, and this creates the constant change, because all of these are feeding each other, and we are going around and around in this model. But the main thing to take away is if our organizations really need to and want to be able to transform as the society is transforming with them, it is a managerial and a leadership issue. And these managerial and leadership issues, and also how to study them, are further examined in the paper that will be published soon. But to conclude, we as an industry, I think every industry at this moment needs to learn to foster creativity. So as Jaakko said, we have an industry that is focused on doing a lot of things, but we also have to find ways how we can create new things. And we've witnessed quite a lot of new things during this past 6 months. I think the COVID has been one of the biggest drivers of innovation in the industry for decades, and hopefully these innovative practices will continue also later on in the future. What information and communication technologies are doing is that they are enabling new kinds of social connections. And this is a really interesting topic for the future research, to understand how the social networks and connections between people and organization actually enable creativity and thus innovations to happen. and it's a process that can be understood. It's a process that can be managed. It's a process that can be developed in a processing in a way that we create processes for it. And this is part of the smart tourism paradigm that especially the tourism industry or researchers, but also the industry is extremely interested at this moment, that we are starting to have so much data about everything that all of these aspects, if we just can look at the right things, are becoming easier and easier to understand with that data that we have available. But they require organizations to change their leadership and management to accommodate all of these new possibilities. And that requires organizations to learn new things and get people, for example, from universities that should know these things. And of course, one of the, if we look at previous research we've done is during this spring we published a book on tourism business in Finnish, which has authors, leading authors from various fields of tourism business, each writing on their own expertise topics, which is it's a really nice book, available now also as an ebook, but also as a physical book from several bookstores. So hopefully you'll go and grab our book, because it's one of the few books for the past 2 decades that really focuses on what tourism business is and how we can develop in a sustainable way. But that's part of the things that I've been working on lately during the past year. And if you have any questions or comments, I would be happy to answer them. Raya at least has her hand up. Please go ahead.
My point is that as soon as those who want to ask questions concerning your presentation, I would very shortly also tell what kind of doctoral research projects we have going on at the moment, so that you get an idea what we are doing at the moment. But first, if there are any...
Well, Jaakko has raised his hand.
Okay, thanks again. Juho is smiling on the topic of digital issues. Again, I raise my hand. I grasp a bit of my theoretical academic side on, and want to raise an issue to all the audiences on my side. If you are not aware of the term algorithm effect, I advise you to also investigate a bit of this issue. Why? In a wider perspective, as I fully agree with Juho's presentation on exactly now, like the COVID issue is hitting the point of changing business models. So we are very rapidly in trades, on my opinion, facing the situation that majority of the business models will change. It started already far before COVID issues. It started on the changing customer values, etc. But now the business model is really pushing on to change the models that you can actually make a profit out of. And from that point of view, I want to just raise a comment that on my opinion, the current business setup is still a bit old-fashioned volume-based. So the business models, all the digital solutions mainly, roughly said mainly, the search engines and online travel agency models and so on, what we are clicking on via browsers and mobiles, they still work mainly on the volume idea. Enough volume of visitors and traffic and clicks and enough volume of everything will result a good business. But my hypothesis is that this is really changing now. We will see a change in every major OTA channel and those user experiences and interfaces that these algorithms will start to provide and serve more values. So not only driving volume, but also representing and driving some values. Not maybe mainly, but as I said also. And this will change a lot of the ways we work now. For example, to us, the very simple thing from the destination level. So far, more than 10 years, it's been that you need to get your destination inventory to be bookable online. Yes, we need to get, still, we are not on that stage. We need to make it happen. But also the biggest global players on the business, on the kind of the B2B, so business to consumer, the full channel in digital world. They are saying that, hey, actually, we need an itineraries, we need inventories of tours, and we need those tours to be very thematic and very value oriented. We need sustainable tours. We need this kind of very, very value oriented issues. And to let you all know, don't tell anyone. The idea, they actually say to us that this is no more volume based. We have a different revenue model over here. And then comes the new age businesses and the old age businesses in digital scape, and they don't understand each other. And this is really, I was just sitting in a remote meeting where an old fashioned digital sales operator said that will never work. We will never transform to that one. And the new one said that, okay, that's your opinion, but actually, and especially to the COVID issue and the halt of the trade, we will start a totally new model in terms of revenue and profit. But just to raise this issue, if you want to investigate it more, it could be on my side, like simplify the future of algorithm effect. What does it look like? Thank you.
I'm so happy to hear this because, well, everybody who knows me knows that I'm totally stupid. I don't know anything about digitalization, and I just use some tools, and I am the very good example of a representative of the big generations, the elderly generations who have the money and very soon also the time to travel, but we are not yet those who use all those digital channels and digital things. And I'm also one of those who still thinks that, like Riina did, talk about the luxury and unconventional luxury. I still think that no crowding and silence and peace and quiet and the remote destinations are the new luxury and the unconventional luxury. And just according to what these two PhD students, very soon doctors, I can say, that they talked about. And in terms of what you talked about, the values, I can tell all the audience that we have one PhD student among our team, and she also is working at our university, Katja Pesonen, with a very long experience in tourism development. She is writing her PhD study on responsibility communication. And this is about responsible tourism from the service provider's point of view, and how can we communicate those sustainable and responsible activities that the enterprises really are involved in their actual service provision. So responsibility communication, responsibility from the service provider's point of view is very much in our interest. And I would highly encourage also our new students to consider in their forthcoming after one year, you will be thinking about your master's thesis topic. This is one of those that we are really interested in. Then also what our PhD students are doing and very close to have all the publications ready. One is Elli Vento, our PhD student, who is involved in a social tourism product, and social tourism refers to such arrangements in which some organization or any kind of authority is supporting the disadvantaged people, their opportunities to have a holiday away from home. And Elli is doing her research particularly on the effects of holidays on the well-being of individuals and in the context of social tourism. So this is very much what I talked yesterday for our new students in the session. Then we also have a Chinese PhD student who is involved in a study called Meaning of Nature for Chinese young people. And this is also very close to those topics that have been touched today already by Esko and by Riina as well. Then we have also Nelli Heiskanen, who is starting her PhD studies based on her master's thesis, which was about seasonal workers' retention to the same destination or to the same employer. This is a very interesting and important leadership and also destination management aspect, because the retention of seasonal workers is contributing to the competitiveness of the company, of course, first of all, but also the destination in a way that those employees who are experienced in the destination, they most probably can provide better service than those who don't know much about the destination. And then we have Xingxing Guo, who is doing his research in the context of destination image development and social media, and he is Juho is his first supervisor, and maybe can explain a little bit more. But anyway, this is related to destination image and social media, and how social media contributes to destination image development in the market. What else do we have? Then Johanna can shortly also tell about her own study. Yeah, and then we have one more research project, which is about the competitiveness of Finnish restaurant sector. So, and then we have several other development projects dealing with Karelian wellness, so wellness tourism, developing the attractiveness of well-being products and wellness services in Finland, and in Russia. And then also we are involved in the cultural tourism project, which is based on Kalevala and all those myths and storytelling that can be rooted from Kalevala. But maybe Johanna, you can have a few words about your research interest.
Well, thank you. I was afraid that you are going to do this. Well, yeah, since I'm more of the practical side, I consider myself like semi-academic. I've been working quite a long with tourism industry as a developer, but what I'm really interested in is the encounters online. I know that there has been lots of research how brands are developed and so how social media is used and how reviews affect destinations and companies and so on. But what happens in this traditional customer encounter, what we do on live, we meet the receptionist or we meet the program or event provider, service provider as such. But when we are online, we have chat or we have chat bot or some form, email, social media, and we are asking questions or asking for service. What happens there? How do we create this feeling of trust and caring in that setting or in that situation? And that's something that I feel is really interesting. And that's what I'm now trying to research or make the study of my own. And I promised to do it in 2 years, but since I've been active in other things, so it has been a long project.
But nonetheless, Johanna is basically our third teacher in our tourism marketing management program, at least for this year with me and Raija. All right, but that was a good overview of most of the research we are doing at the PhD level here. And in addition to that, we also have quite a lot of active master students. And now we have 3 presentations from master students who have recently graduated, presenting shortly their results from their theses. So we're gonna start with Tuulia Pelkonen. Tuulia, you're online.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. And in your master's thesis, you studied motivations for silence tourism.
Yes.
Here we go.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Tuulia Pelkonen, and as Juho just mentioned, I did my master's thesis of motivations for silence tourism. Next. So I found this topic very interesting and topical because this nowadays busy lifestyle and noisy living environments have caused a growing phenomenon of seeking places for quietness and relaxation also on holidays. Also, silence and silence tourism as concepts are challenging because those can be understood differently depending on the background of the person and especially depending on the cultural background. And silence tourism is not much studied. Terms silence and tranquility are used interchangeably often. So there wasn't any established concept of silence tourism or silence tourist. And I wanted to know more, what is this silence tourism and who are these silence tourists? I mean the tourists who are interested in silence tourism services and what motivates them. And also because we are in Finland and here in North Karelia, this region motivated me a lot because I see a lot of potential both in Finland and especially in this region. Next slide, please. So my study was a mixed method study. I did formal concept analysis for the concept of silence tourism, and then I had online survey. And regarding the survey, all the responses were analyzed by descriptive statistics in the SPSS program for getting an overall image of the respondents. After that, I did key means cluster analysis for segmenting the respondents to 3 clusters based on their interest to travel to silence tourism destinations, and their interest to buy silence tourism products. And you can see the clusters here on the left. So they are silence tourists marked with the blue color, and then potential silence tourists and those who are not interested in silence tourism. And all the responses were analyzed then. And here you can see the exact research questions. So the purpose of the study was to increase understanding of silence tourism concept and how these silence tourists differ from the other tourists. Next slide, please. So at first, I thought that it's important to study what is silence, because we are investigating silence tourism. And as I mentioned in the beginning, these terms silence and tranquility are often used interchangeably. And that may be a problem, because if you look at the figure, I have their soundlessness in the core. And many researchers actually say that silence it's not like lack of sounds, but it's rather the silence of nature. And this silence of nature, or external or outer silence, also includes the soundlessness. But then we have inner silence, or silence of mind, which includes both of these. So it means that this inner silence is possible when the external environment is silent. And tranquility covers all of these. You can see the definition of tranquility here on the right in the box. And these traditional and functional silence are also part of tranquility. Traditional silence can be reached by doing nothing and just being, whereas this functional silence is doing something relaxing voluntarily. And so I found out that it's actually better to use the term tranquility when using, when marketing this silence tourism, because it describes it better. And then I have key concepts here. So in my study, silence is this external silence, outer silence, which then enables the inner silence. By silence tourism is meant a type of tourism in which a tourist is encouraged for listening silence in a silent environment, and through it experiencing an inner silence or silence of mind. And then travel motivation refers to a tourist inner motivation, also known as push motivation, for traveling to a destination. And here, this is my favorite slide probably. You can see all the concepts that are closely related to silence tourism. So as you notice, it's very broad concept. And of course, it's good to remember that silence tourism is not related to all of these at the same time, but in different cases to different tourism types. And this means that silence tourism has a lot of potential, because silence tourism activities can be almost anything. But two most well-known or how do you say it, more common silence tourism activities worldwide are probably retreats and different kind of forest-based activities. Next slide, please. So let's move on to the results of the survey. Most of the results regarding the cluster's socio-demographic characteristics, travel behavior, and background information didn't differ statistically differently. So let's just go through very quickly this slide and next 3 slides. Here you can see that household size is there, and most of the silence tourists live in 2-person households. But we can move on to the next. Yes, and here's actually nothing so special, nothing statistically significant. So let's move on. Okay, so here we have something interesting in the middle of the slide. Silence tourists and potential silence tourists have remarkably more experiences of a nature tourism holiday and nature tourism holiday with silence tourism experiences. So that's quite interesting. And we can move. And here on the left, you can see all the countries, or maybe you can see, hopefully, countries that the respondents came from. And here in the SIG column, it says that the result is statistically significant, but it's because over 60% of the respondents were from Finland, so that affects the result. So it's actually more interesting to look at this another table here, where we can compare if the respondents are from Finland or from other European countries or from non-European countries. And from here we can see that the respondents who were from other European countries or non-European countries were more like silence tourists occurred more in these groups. And next slide. And this is also very interesting and important slide, as it is noteworthy that all of these 6 expectations about silence tourism were statistically significant. So it means that silence tourists expected, or they expect silence tourism being enjoyable, relaxing, exciting, favorable, and fun. And also 2.8% of them expect it to be boring. Of course, it can be noted that almost every respondent in each cluster expect it to be relaxing, but still all of these other, like this enjoyable and exciting, these things are very, very interesting how they see it. And then also silence tourists and potential silence tourists are very interested in buying nature tourism services that are based on silence experiences. And then in the bottom of the table, we can see that silence tourists are not so interested in traveling urban or city destinations, but they are very interested in traveling rural or nature destinations. Almost 95% of them are interested in that. And it makes it statistically significant. So yeah, we can move on to the next. So here, regarding travel behavior, the interesting thing is that silence tourists disagreed most with this statement that they always like to mix with the local people and local customs, and it's shortened here, local people and local customs in the table. So they were not so interested in these local things. Next slide, please. And here, finally, we get here to motivations for silence tourism. So if we look at this SIG column in the middle again, we can notice that both silence tourists and potential silence tourists were very motivated to increase their knowledge and spend time in nature. And they were not motivated to get away, because in the B column there's minus in this part. So meaning that they were not interested. And then also potential silence tourists were not interested to discover new things. Next, please. So what does all of this means in the businesses. This is my last slide, and I'll give some tips for silence tourism service providers. So because it's very hard to communicate your message so that people from every cultures understand it in similar way. So, because I mean that, for example, for us Finns, silence is usually neutral or often even positive, but it's not for everyone. It may be even scary. So that's why it's very important to communicate clearly what do you mean by silence, so that the customers know what to expect. And I suggest you to use rather term tranquility than the silence. And then silence tourism products should be made relaxing, enjoyable, exciting, favorable, and fun to meet the expectations, as you remember. And since this study pointed out the clear association between silence tourism and nature tourism, ideal environment for silence tourism destination is rural and or close to nature. And it's also good to remember that silence tourism activity can be almost anything when there are silent environment and breaks included to the activity. And those breaks gives a possibility to reach inner silence or silence of mind. But it's also good to be aware that many of the customers may want to stay in the nature and really have long breaks to enjoy. And because these kind of like silence tourism products may be unfamiliar for many of the customers, guidance for achieving inner silence is a good idea. Just like simple advice like close your eyes or look around and let's not to talk and things like that are very, very good. And because silence tourists were very motivated to increase their knowledge, these silence tourism products should include information of interesting things related, for example, to the destination or to the activity, something like that. And finally, to find the right target group, start with those who have experience of nature tourism, because they were more interested in traveling silence tourism destinations. That was my presentation. Thank you. And if you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you, Tuulia. Yeah, that's an interesting product or service segment for many Finnish tourism businesses and regions. And what I found probably the most interesting thing is in your research is that the silence tourists are definitely like a subsection of nature tourists, and these two things go hand in hand. But we also tend to think that silence tourism services are something that people in cities in the middle of all that hassle and hurry and noise want to experience. But your results show that there are actually more people living in non-urban environments, and people who like silence tourism also like to live in silent spaces. And
Yes.
And I think this is logical that maybe the best target groups for silence tourism products are not found from city centers, but already among people who live in the rural countryside and are just looking for additional ways to enjoy that. There's no questions at this moment, but people can reach you on LinkedIn, for example,
Yes.
right? And please connect and contact Tuulia if especially this topic is of interest for you. All right, great, thank you. Let's take our next student. Who should be Sanelma? Sanelma, you are online. Great. Sanelma, you're there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you perfectly. Great.
Cool. Thank you.
So go ahead. Altruistic values and actual behavior among cabin crew. Cabin crew has been one of the hardest hit tourism employee groups there is because of this COVID-19 crisis. And I think your master's thesis really gives us an interesting in-depth perspective of who the people in the cabin crew actually are and what they do. So go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, I was interested as well who they are, because you can actually put the next slide already, please. I started to wonder that my colleagues, my previous colleagues, the cabin crew members of Finnair, they seem to be so active in altruistic work such as volunteer and charity work, and I began to wonder why. Is it because they travel so much, or is it because there is something special about the group, or what's the reasons behind that? And when I started to read further for the topic, I realized it's very important and current topic, because altruism is a base for empathy, or not a base but part of empathy often. And empathy is part of soft skills, which are very trendy at the moment, and future work is estimated to need more soft skills from employees, and it is quite trendy to be that kind of a good guy, so-called. And then I started to realize there really is no earlier research about the topic. There's a lack of research about altruism among tourism workforce, and also lack of research about values or actual behavior about cabin crew members. There is research about cabin crew members, but they are usually just about health issues and how that kind of thing. So really no motivational or values. And also tourism workforce hasn't been studied that much. So I found a proper research gaps for that. And then I was trying to think more why the study could be important, is that I hope companies would consider more of this kind of corporate social responsibility, and it could be really useful for their brand image and also the employee well-being, because employee satisfaction and motivation are correlated with career satisfaction. Next one, please. So the purpose of the study and the main research question is, why do cabin crew members behave in an altruistic way? And the target group was cabin crew members at Finnair this spring, during and before this COVID-19 hit very hard. And I had 4 supportive research questions which guided me through answer the main research questions. So what kind of characteristics do altruistically behaving cabin crew members have? What is important in altruistic behavior for cabin crew members? What kind of altruistic behavior do cabin crew members have? And what kind of meaning does work as a cabin crew member have for altruistic behavior? Next, please. So here is just quickly the theory base for my study. So basically I studied the theory about altruism and values, actual behavior, and some of cabin crew member work. So I could somehow put those together to altruistic values and altruistic behavior, and what influences those and how does the work might possibly influence those. And next slide, please. So I used, as a value theory, I had the very popular Swatch Value Survey, which has been used probably the most of all. And it has been expected before that the dimension on the right top corner, the self-transcendence, that would be the most important, because it includes universalism and benevolence. So shortly, universalism means will to protect, appreciate, and understand the welfare of all, both nature and people that you don't even know, while benevolence means to enhance and preserve the welfare of in-group, so your closed ones. So those two values are expected to be the most important ones in this study. Next one, please. So shortly, this was a case study, and I had to do an online survey. I wanted to do an interview, but because anonymity issue for the company, I did an online survey, which was difficult to handle, but I managed hopefully somehow, and I got qualitative and quantitative data out of that with structured and unstructured questions. The survey was on for 11 days in our closed channels, and I got to use 57 replies for that. And the analysis was done in multiple ways. So it was content analysis and also frequencies, mean values, some variables. And yes, so I tried to combine what would be best for each question. So very shortly, I try to make this sharp and short. So the socio-demographic information is that expectedly, majority of the answers were women with pretty much all ages, and most of them were CCM, so cabin crew members. And those other in the yellow circle, there are CPU, CLB, and PXM, so those are the superiors. So as you can see, almost 3 out of 4 were employees. And their experience as working as a cabin crew member varied, and later on there was no correlation seen between how long have you been working and how much you do volunteer work. But basically most of the answers, or almost all, do some kind of altruistic behavior now or have done it earlier. Next one, please. And as expected, the values of benevolence and universalism were expected to raise the highest. So I asked about those repliers in general. What do they appreciate most in life? And as you can see on the right corner, there are the values of benevolence and universalism, in fact, are the highest. But also the value of security raised important. So I studied some more. In the next slide, here is the scale from 0 to 4, 0 being no important at all and 4 being very important. And you can see behind altruistic action, there is benevolence and universalism are in fact very important, but they are not, but also all other values have some kind of part in those. So there were answers such as volunteer work brings me joy and I am happy if I can bring others joy as well. However, I am not helping only because of altruistic reasons. While I help, I meet new people and I learn interesting things. It's also my principle that stronger help weaken, and also roles might suddenly change. So the answers were very wide often, and you could put them in few categories. But yes, next slide, please. So here you can see on the above, there are reasons why helping started. So often it was that some certain situation awoke them to help. For example, tsunami or corona, or something bad has happened to them, or something that they have been needing help, and that's why they want to give their help to others. However, the tables kind of turn, because once they have help, many people want to help more because they find it important. They also find it important for the helped, or somebody who they are helping, but mainly they help because it's important for them. Yes, and this is the same scale for being very important and 0 being no important at all. So important factors in altruistic behavior is also that they are aware that their help is needed, or the older I grow, the more I feel the urge to help. So all of these came from theory about altruistic behavior that I found. So some of the theory I met in this study and some of not, but let's not get deeper into that now. So the next slide, please. There is just type of helping. So as you can see clearly, donating it's quite easy, and it's also the most popular way of helping. Also some kind of collecting or event organizing was important. And many cabin crew members they put their answers belong to several categories, such as they might have a godchild in Zambia, and then they help 4 different organizations monthly, and they also participate in events and that kind of things. So many types of help. And this was a bit surprising for me that I expected, because I've been seeing so much altruistic behavior in our layovers, but as you can see, 85% help only in Finland, while 15% help in Finland and other countries as well. So, and also on the right, 67% of helped people are in Finland. So you can see that Finland is very important after all, that they see, even though they appreciate Finland, it was very popular in answers, that's why they want to help. They also see that we need a lot of help here. And mostly they help different families. And yes, majority want to help more. And this is also, as you can see, the meaning of cabin crew work to both altruistic values and behavior has been huge. And also many people consider that the colleagues have been affecting their volunteer work greatly. And their worldview is wider, they appreciate Finland, they feel more privileged, and also the colleagues have helped them to give new targets to help. And also the work time has allowed them to help pretty much whenever they want. Yes, what else? So just to conclude, the altruistic values of benevolence and universalism are the most important, as was expected. However, they are not enough to measure altruistic behavior alone, because also other values mean so much. And cabin crew work and colleagues have had a clear influence on altruistic behavior. So yeah, I was pretty happy with the results of this study myself, even though I'm not quite sure if they are, how much I actually trust them, because I noticed that there are many examples where missing that I know have been happened. For example, helping of a sick colleague in a very big group. So none of that was mentioned, or some other example that I know from my work should be there, but are not. And also the timing of the study might affect the results and that kind of thing. It might also have an influence that I know the work and the colleagues. And however, I suggest that the future research, the topic, the altruism, is an important for tourism, and I hope it's included more in the future. And also, I reckon that the massive influence of COVID-19 now to cabin crew member and to aviation would affect the situation now and the results. So it might be interesting to have a similar type of study in the future. That should be about 10 minutes. So thank you so much, and feel free to ask any questions.
Thank you, Sanelma. There's so far no questions in the chat. Let's see if anybody has raised their hand. Not yet, but I think this was nonetheless quite interesting for many listeners, because it's one of the topics that we don't discuss and really think even about. But what Jaakko was saying, that how do we make the positive impacts of tourism visible for locals, and I think many of us are surprised that the cabin crew members of Finnair do so much for the Finns, right? And many of them are and there's many great initiatives with the school help and stuff like that it's also a really big resource for a company to have employees that are contributing so much.
Yes.
And maybe the question is like how, like I can see that there is this kind of a tradition of helping out among the cabin crew members. Can you say where all of this has started? Does anybody know?
I'm not sure. Do you mean some particular, some individual?
Like, has there been like some kind of a person who has thought that now we have to do more, now we have to help people, or some kind of event, or has this always been an attribute of cabin crew members, or do you have any knowledge about this?
I think both and. So there are very strong individuals and who have even, there are some groups within Finnair Group that have been organizing those events, and they have huge impact of colleagues. But also when I studied other airlines around the world, it's quite popular that many airlines have their own organization, but also many cabin crew members have their own organization. So I think it's both, and there are many people who see the help, and also they have plenty of time, unfortunately at the moment especially, but plenty of time to help and organize events, and they meet a lot of people and they hear these ideas, and it's easy to contribute those bits together. So I think it's both and.
Great. Thank you so much for this presentation and finding time to join our webinar.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we have our last presentation of the day. Ella Väänänen. Ella, are you online?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, that's absolutely great. So you studied sustainable tourism destination management, so very within the deep focus of our program and our research group to understand how destinations and tourism in general can work in a more sustainable way. So looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you. So yes, like Juho said, my topic was sustainable tourism destination management, and it was a multiple case study from Finnish Lapland. And also this topic sounds very wide, but then we decided to take the perspective and try to really figure out who is in charge of sustainable management in Lapland, and how is it managed and how is it monitored. And this topic is, it was clear for me from the beginning that I wanted to study Lapland, so that's why the case study destinations are situated in Lapland. So if you could click to the next slide. Just a little bit about what sustainable destination management is and what sustainability is. So in tourism research and in tourism literature, sustainability in tourism has been mainly divided into three aspects, which are economic, socio-cultural, and ecological, so the environmental aspect. And these three are really the main elements, or the pillars of sustainability. And some people might add other aspects, but these are the base ones. And the economic aspect, of course, that deals with financial issues, and social culture with people in the destination, and ecological with nature and environment. And sustainability in a destination can improve destination competitiveness. There's been a connection has been found between sustainability and competitiveness, and it can increase the interest, of course, in customers' eyes. And now sustainability is also used a lot in marketing, which can then result in some issues if it's used for greenwashing. So sustainability, like all other aspects in tourism, has to be managed, and that's what I was trying to find out with this thesis. Because in order to make sure that something is managed efficiently, of course, we have to measure and monitor the progress being made. And when it comes to sustainable destination management, indicators are a great way to do that. So in my thesis, I used this European Commission indicator set that they really provide clear viewpoints and clear perspectives into managing, measuring, and developing sustainability. And so they called ETIS, meaning European Tourism Indicator System, I believe. And they were published in 2013, were updated in 2016, and they are divided into 4 groups. These indicators, I if I remember correctly, there are about 40 of these indicators. And destination management indicators deal with, for example, customer satisfaction. Economic value is about tourist numbers, occupancy rates, and jobs in tourism. Social and cultural impact. These indicators deal with social impact, health and safety, and accessibility in the destination. And environmental impact, which I think I wrote ecological impact, but it should be environmental. That deals with waste management, climate change, transportation issues. And with these indicators, the destinations can really get these topics in numbers. So you can clear numbers that you can then measure and compare to, for example, last year, for example, other destinations, and then see where you are doing well and what are the topics that you still need to improve on. And in Finland, these indicators are not that widely in use, as Visit Finland has established this program called Sustainable Travel Finland, and they have their own indicators. They are based on the European Commission ones, at least partly, but the Visit Finland indicators that destinations get, they are not public information, unfortunately, so they will be tailor-made for the destinations, if I understand correctly. And why am I talking about these indicators anyway, and this Sustainable Travel Finland, is that my case destinations are then a part of these or have just joined the program, that then explain the results in a lot, actually. But if you could then click to the next slide, please, Juho. So in my study, I had 3 case study destinations. They were Ruka, Kuusamo, Levi, and Ylläs, and they were chosen because they're the biggest ski resorts in Lapland, and also because the nature of these destinations are very similar as nature-based destinations and providing similar products. And I had 9 interviews, so 3 from each destination. And the interviews were, first interviews were actually, I met them at the travel fair in Helsinki earlier this year. And then from there, we used the snowballing technique to find other interviewees, and then I used some of my previous knowledge as well. And it was a qualitative study, and the interviews were semi-structured. And then the interviews were analyzed using a qualitative content analysis. And then these are my research questions. I actually noticed that there's one missing. I must have skipped it. But what are the sustainable management strategies that are being followed in Lapland? And what is the role of the DMO in sustainable tourism destination management? How is sustainability monitored and measured in Lapland? And then the one I skipped was actually, what are the concrete actions taken to improve sustainability in Lapland, and what are the challenges and future prospects? So these were the issues that I really tried to find out in my interviews. So next slide, please. Then the study results. So my interviews, so actually I had the heads of the destination management companies from Ruka, Kuusamo, Ylläs, and Levi. Well, Ylläs not so much because they have a bit of a different setup for DMOs, but yeah, it can be said that the heads of the DMOs were the first ones to be interviewed. And then the rest were they were professionals in tourism that they wished to stay anonymous. So, but there's different operators in tourism, and the backgrounds were very or we tried to choose people who have different backgrounds in order to get a wide range of points of view. So the study results, they really showed that DMOs are very much in charge of sustainable destination management, but also each and every business and enterprise and entrepreneur has to take care of their own business. And this is what everyone said. That I think there was only one person who didn't agree with the DMO being in charge, and that was in Ullas, because they don't really have a working destination management organization there right now. And the results also showed that the sustainability in tourism in Lapland is very reliant on certificates and Sustainable Travel Finland. In tourism, there's lots of different certificates that businesses can acquire, and they have different content, they have different prices, so it's fairly scattered. It sounded like from the study results, but now Ullas is planning to join Sustainable Travel Finland. Levi and Ruka are already in the process, so that should be then unifying these certificates under one clear program. And there's also lots of sustainability projects and guidelines and information. Even in Ruka, they must have like 10 different brochures for sustainability. And so the interviews did seem a little bit overwhelmed with all the different guidelines for sustainability. Then in the interview questions, I asked which aspect of sustainability has gained most attention lately, which one has like been on the forefront, and also which sustainability indicators are perceived as most important. And it revealed that the ecological aspect is the most highlighted topic of the three right now, and that's of course because probably also pressure from the media and the business and everything. Ecological aspect is now important for everyone, for customers as well. But when I asked about the which sustainability indicators are perceived as most important, then they were the economic ones. So of course, meaning the financial issues. And these were seen as the facilitator for sustainability. So there's a slight conflict of interest, maybe, that ecological sustainability is more on the forefront, but still economic issues are seen as the most important. And then the results also showed that there's hardly any measuring tools in use when it comes to sustainability, so almost no one is using indicators. There's just not enough know-how on how to do it, what to measure, no knowledge about the tools that can be used, and of course money is always an issue. And turns out that sustainability is actually now an important strategic aspect for these three destinations. And although many said that they don't have a sustainability strategy yet, or a management strategy for sustainability, but they are now under development and will be published. Some said later this year, and then for some it will be next year. And then also concrete actions for improving sustainability, they were already taken, especially in waste management, energy efficiency, and developing and supporting the local culture and businesses. And then in the next slide, I chose this challenge. I had lots of tables in the thesis, but I decided to show you the one in challenges. just because you can see there's quite big differences even between destinations. So in this table, you can see the L1, 2, and 3. They are the interviews from Levi, and then R4, 5, 6 from Ruka, Kuusamo, and then Ys are from Ylläs. So even between these destinations, even Ylläs and Levi, for example, they only less than an hour away from each other. There's quite significant differences. And so this table shows that challenges in sustainable tourism destination management very much deal with resources, so money, and workload. Not enough people, not enough money to really focus in these issues, and cooperation and engagement, meaning that it is hard for example, DMOs to engage all smaller businesses in this sustainability management work as well. And accessibility and transport, of course, many people mention that because of the situation of these destinations, and they're far from bigger cities. And then waste management, well, there's hardly no, for example, bio recycling in Lapland, but that is something that every single destination, all these 3 destinations are now working with. And in the next slide, just to conclude, that the ecological aspect is now the most current of these 3, but economic indicators are perceived as the most important. So money is still, of course, what many of these interviewees did talk about. So it means that businesses, they really need to find a balance in where they put financial and ecological issues. How do they balance them, but also how do they value them, which is the ones that they base their decisions and development on. And sustainability is not very much monitored yet, mainly just economic indicators. Of course, all businesses follow these economic indicators. Some interviewees did say that they, for example, they have their own smaller, very, very limited set of indicators that they follow, but the Sustainable Travel Finland program is really seen as something that should help these destinations in Lapland and establish clear goals and instructions on how to reach these goals. And like I said, resources and cooperation is a challenge, like we saw in the previous slide, and there's a lot of small companies and tight resources. And in the next slide, I just put up a few points how tourism businesses, not just the ones I interviewed, but tourism businesses in Lapland or similar destinations, how can they benefit from this study? And luckily, what we found out from these interviews that although there didn't seem to be many indicators or any tools for measuring and monitoring sustainability in use yet, sustainability is an undertone in business operations and development in Lapland. And of course, that is because all these destinations they very much rely on their nature-based products, that it is natural for them to be respectful towards nature and local people and try to cherish that. Yeah, but then indicators that are slightly overlooked, and some interviews did say that they don't really see them necessary as long as they have some concrete actions to do, which is of course right, but then in order to be able to say that you are like sustainably managing your destination, you should be able to show what you've improved, for example. And sustainability is gaining more focus in strategic management and development. And in this case study, the destinations, they can actually get information about what they are doing well and what they don't, and hopefully also, for example, for yllättäviä ruokaa, they can compare the answers a little bit. I didn't include every single table in this presentation, but it can give some insights on who has to manage sustainability in order for it to happen, and what are the issues that everyone is dealing with, and what are the issues that I am dealing with but my neighbor, for example, isn't. And one of the best feedback that I actually got from one of the interviews is that this study was actually already, it had been read in order for them to improve their sustainability strategy. So that made me very happy, and I really felt like I actually contributed to something. But yeah, that's my study in a nutshell. So please feel free to ask if you have any questions.
Great, thank you, Ella. I really enjoyed your master's thesis. Alexander Pippi asks that, do you know if sustainability measuring tools and indicators are used in ski resorts in the other Nordic countries or in other foreign countries? Did you look at this? How Finnish destinations benchmark compared to international competitors?
I didn't specifically look into this, but when I was studying the European tourism indicators, it did seem that like at least around 2000 and maybe 13, 14, 15, 16, these indicators had been mainly used in Central Europe and Southern Europe. I actually hardly found any studies where they were using this particular indicator set in the Nordics or even Northern Europe.
Thank you. For us and for everything, the user perspective is always important to understand how things work and why they don't, and so on. And your master's thesis on the user perspective of the DMO on these indicators and sustainable development was actually quite enlightening to understand the challenges and difficulties and the culture of sustainable development in destinations. And I think the picture that we can get from this study is that because the organizations haven't really set goals for sustainable development, it also means that they don't set budget for that. And then the sustainable development is something that is done if we have extra money, virtually. It's not prioritized over something else, but it is something extra that is being done. And I think that when moving forward, we really need to start prioritizing sustainable development in different ways. And Raija is willing to contribute something to this.
Yeah, thank you, Ella. I totally agree with Juho about this, and I must say that when I had the honor and privilege to supervise Ella's study, I was more or less disappointed to see how little, well, let's say responsibility and leadership the DMOs really had in terms of this sustainability measures and how they perceive this. They somehow, and I'm sure that it is basically based on lack of resources and that it has not yet been seen that important, and when they look at this these measures, they were referring to enterprises, and they were somehow on the opinion and that it is basically on the responsibility of individual enterprises to take care of their sustainability, which is of course true. but and then they were referring to all those certificates and sustainability labels that companies do have or do not have. But what I would call for would be the leadership of the DMO and to introduce all those possible measures and because it would be quite easy to implement, and my concern, particularly when Ella started this and which actually led to this topic and the idea was the lack of for example waste management programs and waste management practices in these ski resorts, and why didn't and why don't these DMOs take a more active role in contacting the municipalities and all those authorities that are responsible for that? Because if the DMOs together with the enterprises would actively demand for better solutions for example waste management, which is only one aspect of sustainability, then the municipality authorities would be forced to do something with the problem. But I don't know if Jaakko is still there and if Jaakko would comment this, but I was almost shocked about the less of responsibility and why is this so in early stages? We should be the first because we are a nature-based tourism country. Thank you, Ella, for your very good presentation.
Thanks.
Do we have time for a short answer?
A really short time.
Okay. Very briefly. Thank you, Ella, again for the great presentation. And this is one of the key topics. On behalf of our destination, in the name of Visit Karelia, the sustainable development in total is written and confirmed to be one of our 4 strategic key development programs, what we call the pathways to the top, for our growth strategy beginning 2020, leading to 2030 at this stage, with also numeric goals. So not only the goals included, for example, in the Sustainable Travel Finland, but we have a simple own calculation method that we want more than half of the trade, active international suppliers, to be certified or belong to our own sustainable ways of working also. And from this, what we have done in conjunction to what Raija said, we as a destination, because we wrote it down to the strategy and then confirmed it, what then happened? We enrolled to the Sustainable Travel Finland as a destination. We coordinate the whole process in behalf of the destination. And I have one staff member with the own budget and half time working hours for the whole sustainable issues. And from there, we have gained to the process that we actually know which companies are belonging to which certificates and what are the next steps for them to, for example, may make through the Sustainable Travel Finland. We know that we have on our region the only Nordic Tourcert certified provider, and we tackled more integrated to the SDG themes, because on the certificate issue, it really is for the German-speaking market, for example, they need to have a certificate, no matter what we do.
Yeah, it's a must.
Yeah, it's a must.
Right.
And even on that issue, they might say to us that, oh, okay, it's great that you are on the national level, like Sustainable Travel Finland, but that doesn't mean to them anything because it's not the Nordic level program. But this is a key issue, and for us, it means that we have a staff member with half working time only on the issue, and it's written on our strategy and on our budget. But
yeah,
other destination DMOs, we just had yesterday a meeting with this. It's exactly also like Raija said. They lack out the strategy and the resources. So then it's only maybe some seminars and education, but actually not like really implementing the issues.
But you're not either swimming in money, so it's about how to prioritize those resources.
Exactly.
Because we all have limited resources, but our strategy tells us how we should budget those resources.
We believe that for this region, it is already a competitive edge. And by developing it, it really will be a major competitive edge. It will profit a lot more back to here than we invested in now. But this is a strategic decision. It's not like a statement that, for the nature, this and this. Because, and to let you all know, it's not, the Sustainable Travel Finland is a very pragmatic way to get things started. But then we need to do other things, which are, for example, specific for us. The peers fair program and a lot of things that are especially to our destination, other sustainable and responsible issues.
Great, thank you.
Can I say one thing?
Please,
I really agree with Jaakko on this, that although some of my interviews were a bit skeptical when it comes to lots of like certificates and things, it did sound like what the Sustainable Travel Finland was actually going to be very helpful is providing clear instructions, like step-to-step instructions on how to get this process done, or at least how to get it started. I think that's one of the biggest benefits the program has.
And we have to make sustainable simple for the users. Like sometimes I feel like it's such a big thing nowadays if someone wants to be sustainable that it's scaring businesses off even. And we need to find ways not to make it so scary and big, but it can start with simple things.
But really, I want to say here that what I've witnessed by myself already is the dropout of products or producers from distribution channels or sales channels because they do not have a certificate or they do not have their own like a commitment and written processes for sustainable or responsible way of producing the chosen product. I was sitting in a table where they tried to sell their product for the reseller, and the reseller just asked, do you have a written paper on these issues? And this was not a small player, the provider. And they said, not yet, end of conversation, that's it. So they just included that, come back to me when you have it.
That's a good example of the reality where we live now. So it's starting to become paramount for businesses. It's not anymore nice to have, it's a must to have. But that also takes us to the final thing in this webinar, which are the Visit Karelia Scholarship Awards. We started this webinar with the introduction of collaboration between higher education and destination management organizations, and we've been delighted that Visit Karelia has provided our students a 9,000 euro scholarship fund, and we've decided to use that fund to provide our students opportunities to learn and focus on studying, as well as rewarding them for job well done. So we are distributing 3 1,500 euro scholarships for first year students in our program, and another 3 times 1,500 scholarships for second year students based on their master's theses. And actually, as it happens, the master's thesis research that were shown to you are from the winners of this second year student scholarship award. So we have Ella, Sanelma and Tuulia who will receive the award for their accomplishments in their master's thesis phase and how they have contributed to and worked hard with their theses. So Jaakko, maybe you would like to say a few words. Where did the idea of providing this scholarship came from, and a few words about it?
Okay, thank you. Very shortly, so much is already said. As we can see on the screen on some presentation of mine, to develop a destination sustainable, local, and inspiring by its nature, we really need to do practical things, and this was one of those practical things to not only speak about, but we ideated how can we actually say more aloud how important this program is for the trade and for us also, and then really to support, engage, challenge, and award all you students out there that this is an key, how do you say, key income for the region and for the nation. So we need to emphasize the importance of tourism as an industry. And for this structure, I think we sat down together with Juho and I asked that how could we engage and help also you out to really stand out that this is a really important issue. And I'm glad to see that the program is running so well in every aspect. And I'm glad to see that those theses and research done, also the practical, what was it, Juho, the case works you've done for the destination suppliers. Really, that's a pro bonus for us that they get this kind of hands-on help, like for the companies. And due to this, all of these regions, we want to congratulate for the good work done for the whole program, and especially the structure, how Juho with your team has focused who to get the scholarship.
Yes, because well, without students we would be nothing. So we really want to use these funds to reward them and also motivate them. And it also means a lot to us that the industry is supporting our program in such a way. So we will be providing our students with a nice certificate later on that come by mail that are signed by Raija and Jaakko, and also we will be providing the money involved with the scholarship in very soon timetable. But when we started this scholarship, we had planned to have a really nice event in Joensuu where everybody would be present and so on. But I think this works also as a webinar, and it was really great that all the 3 students who received the Master's Thesis Award were able to come here and present their research. And if maybe all of us can give them applause, even though the mics might be muted, but I think the spirit goes on. And thank you all and congratulations. And then we also have 3 students who started their studies in 2019. In the fall. So first year students who are now starting their master's theses. And these students who are hopefully online are Tia Nordström, Emmina Lindfors, and Rosa Repo. Are you guys online?
I'm online, at least I think Rosa is also online.
Yes, I'm here.
Fantastic to have all of you here and joining the webinar. What this kind of scholarship means for you as a student? Tia, care to answer?
Well, yeah, of course, it encourages to focus on your studies, because when I did my bachelor's degree, I didn't focus that much on this year, being older and everything like that. I wanted to focus more on the study and want to actually learn. So it's nice to have some kind of this kind of good feedback for that.
Yes, and you guys, but also many others. So it's not just you guys. You were the top of the iceberg, but there were some really great study results from last year, and we're happy that we are able to reward hardworking students in such a way. So you will also be receiving the scholarship and the certificate, hopefully soon, depending on how the post office works. But congratulations also for you guys. So I think we're running really late with this seminar. If you're interested in seeing more, so we have constantly new master's theses, people graduating from our program who are listed on our website, so you can find the graduated students from there and read the master's theses from our e-publications. I want to thank all of you. We have to maybe utilize what we've learned today to think about the future of tourism, hopefully not by ourselves, but among our networks, among our social connections. I thank everybody who participated in this webinar, everybody who is listening to the recording, Jaakko and Riina and Esko, and our master students who presented their research. Thank you so much, and we do aim to organize this again next fall, so hopefully this will become an annual thing for our program. But I think that's it for this webinar, and take care and continue making tourism better.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.